Welcome back, everybody. We in the building. We in the mother building. How y'all doing today? Are y'all ready for a great build between two sharp minds today? Let me give a shout out to my brother Q Butter. Y'all already know who he is. If you don't, get in the description area and go ahead and subscribe to his channel right now before we even go into this build. I hope y'all liked it, the intro music. Shout out to K Reno. He's a beast, been doing it for a while. Me and Q Butter, we artists as well. So going over there, he got some hot music over there as well. Let me go ahead and do something before we get into this show deep because I don't want no problems. Let me turn down my bit rate. Boom, there we go. I don't want no problems. Lately, Google been giving me problems. So we're going to try it at 900. How y'all doing today? Let me get a one in the chat room if you excited on this Thursday. Y'all already know how we going to do it. Before I get into this, let me make an announcement. I got a full-length presentation coming out on brosancheztv dealing with the seven heavens. Be on the lookout for that. And again, let me give a big shout out to the brother Q Butter. Q Butter been around in the conscious community for a while. I don't even know if he would consider himself in the conscious community because, it's a lot of stigma for that community. But the brother deals with science, and that's what brought him onto the show today. We're going to be talking about science, cosmology. Q Butter do believes in a globe Earth, and he may have some questions about flat Earth. We're going to go over that. We're going to try to deal with a lot of areas of science today in general perspectives. I didn't write out no list of questions. I didn't structure nothing. It's a free flow stream, casual. Me and the brother just gonna build and still gonna sharpen steel, and that shit rhyme right there, see? But let me get out the way with my long ass introduction. Let the brother say something about himself before we get into this. Holla at him, my brother Q Butter. Thanks for coming to the show, man. All right, now talk to him.
What's good, family?
Good, what's good, my brother?
Yo, shout out to your chat. Shout out to everybody that's supporting your channel. Yo, appreciate that introduction. That was definitely love, man.
Hey, no doubt, man. I try to reach out to everybody in the community and make my rounds, and I'm just glad that you came through, man, because a lot of folks don't want to deal with science. We want to deal with all the other shit that don't matter. But me personally, I think science is this. When we ask what's the solution, what's the solution? Really, if you're talking about true liberation, science is at the foundation of all nations.
That's a fact. That is a fact. I agree with you 100% on that one. 1,000%.
Can you tell a little bit before we get into any questions on science and all that? Can you give people a rundown on what you do and how to pronounce your company? Because I still don't know how to pronounce it, bro. And tell them a little bit about what you do in the community, my brother.
Well, the name of the movement is Zyx. Three other brothers and myself came up with that name almost 15 years ago, and we came. The goal was to come up with a name that we could apply to anything that was, that we did, and it's original. Nobody else had the name before. We didn't want to come up with, some just, how a lot of, when you're doing music or not so much music, but we're doing it. We were trying to just come up with a name that we could apply to a movement. And Zyx was the name we came up with after sitting in the park, drinking a bunch of Coronas, smoking a bunch of weed. Like, we was in it for like 6 hours. We was a bunch of college kids, and like, we came up with it, you know what I mean? And so, and I ran with, that some of the other brothers kind of fell off over time. I'm still in touch with one of them, but, I ran with it and kept it going. And I'm an audio engineer by trade. School, I dropped out of college. I went to school for astrophysics, and that was pretty cool. And I started my business. Studio engineer, audio engineer. I built an institute in Brooklyn. I do a lot for the community. I need to do more, but I could say I do a lot, and people say I do a lot, but I know I could do more. Built an institute. We got a nice little science lab in here. We got about almost 15 students in our first year doing the homeschooling program full time. We have 15 students in our program. You know,
Hey man, that's I ain't gonna lie, that's a lot of boots on the ground work, and I know it ain't easy, man. You gotta be dedicated and shit. And I just want to give you props for that, man. Regardless of even the shape of the earth, just the time you putting in, excuse me, with the young minds is valuable because a lot of them don't have nobody to do that with them. So I just want to commend you on that, and also commend you on your humility, because a lot of brothers that's doing stuff in the community, they gonna let your ass know they doing it, but I never heard nobody say I ain't doing enough. So that's very humble, man. If you in the chat room, guys, go ahead and hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to Q Butter. Q Butter, let me ask you something real quick, man. We're gonna hop on into this science bill. Now, when you talk about science and education, you say you went to college. Do you think that going to college and sending our kids to college to get a better education is still one of the viable solutions in moving the community forward? Going and get that big degree, or going and go to this big university to get those credentials?
yes, and the answer is yes, but we have to upgrade our perspective of higher education and detach ourselves from some of the things that we've been sold. A lot of the cities have community colleges. They have 2-year degrees, a lot of 18-month programs that can do a lot very fast. Even down to that, like I promote the GED. Well, in New York, it's called a task now, but I promote the GED. And a lot of times people don't like that. Parents here, they're like, oh, you want your kid to get a GED? And I'm like, yeah, he's going to get his GED at 16 years old and go to a community college and be finished community college by 18. Like, what's wrong with that? Like, that's no debt, no bills. If they want to finish their bachelor's degree, they'll be finished that by the time they're 20. No problem. Go on and do what you want to do. I know I got you a degree in 18 months. That's a trade-aligned degree where whether you're doing pharmaceutical tech, you could be doing. They got a new degree at City Tech on media technology. They have what's the other one that's a big one in New York? The paramedics, ambulance workers. The ambulance degree in 2 of the community colleges. You can do the nurses degree nurses program. So there's a lot of programs that are trade oriented at the higher education level, that if given the right opportunity at the early point at our youth, or the right point of our development in our youth, we can take advantage of these and make high strides. It's hard when, we're trying to catch up with 2 kids, or we're in debt. Now we want to go to college, and it's like, I ain't got no time to do that. I got to pay my bills. So to me, it's if we can put that, and that's why I'm kind of, I was talking to you earlier about the curriculum I put together, and I'm really hyped about it because I'm able to align it directly to colleges in the sense of the curriculum path. So that way the kids are introduced to it at an earlier age, and they're able to grasp the information a lot easier, and they can look at their future knowing that they know a lot at a basic level. So they can say, like, look, I may want to go to school to be a doctor. I may want to go to school to be a medical person. I may just want to open a business, but they have enough foundation of educational foundation within them to be able to make, solid choices. I know a lot of times, I'm trying to, I'll end it right there.
No, that was good. That's what's good, man. A bachelor degree at age 20 to me is a big accomplishment, man. A lot of people will never be able to say that, and that is deep. Now I know that a lot of people say that college ain't the way because you end up with a degree that you can't use, and you be knee high up in debt for most of your life, so much in debt that you couldn't even help the community. what you say to them, and what's some ways if you is going to college to get all this education, some shortcuts or loopholes if for some of us who may not get scholarships to pay for it, eat up a lot of that debt?
Well, one, look up your city's grants, look up the programs that your cities have at the community colleges. For example, in New York, it's free to go to college. You have to work or teach in New York for, I think, either 5 to 10 years after, but they have ways that you can kind of edge that out. And if you're at an early age, 5, 10 years really isn't a long time to be able to say you got a bachelor's degree for free. Then on top of that, a lot of people have access to financial aid. Then beyond financial aid, there are, so educational zoning is a big issue in our community. And so we have to move backwards from that and understand it. So I don't know if people, change your address before applying to a school. So for example, a lot of the historical Black colleges allow you to go there for free or then there for nothing if you live in the state. But what happens is a lot of us apply after we graduate and then want to move within that period. And you're already 17 years old, you're flying and trying to get into other places. And now you're outer state resident. You're not a resident to the school. So the prices are going to be different for you. Residents get a different power when they're in the state. Not that, you're not getting international prices, but you have to be living within the state for a year. They're not going to give you these things. So some of these things you just have to know, and the parents need to make these decisions. I hear a lot of parents say they want to let their children make up the decisions. I'm like, no, create the path, organize 3 to 4 different routes based off their personality, and you lay it out. Let them fail with a strong backing versus, letting them choose their way into. That's my opinion. I'm like, look, position them great. The same way they do in sports. We do it with sports. All the parents who play sports and were good at basketball or went to a certain level in college, they give their kids the best to make sure that they can immediately get them to college. We need to think that same way with science. What can we do to immediately? I'm teaching, literally, I had an 8-year-old soldering today, doing desoldering program in my engineering class. That's what I'm teaching them, how to desolder. I'm teaching them refined tooling. And there's an 8-year-old. My son is 7. Yeah, my son is the youngest one. I'm bugging. He's 7. He's been desoldering. He's already got maybe 20 hours in with desoldering. And I just have him taking about chips, taking about circuit boards to recognize the different components and getting them used to having the technique needed to deal with refined methods of refined tooling that's needed in science. And that's something that's unfortunately not being taught in our community.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's crazy that you say that your son is doing the desoldering, because I got a $300 subwoofer in my garage now, and I was banging it out so hard that some wires in the back they ripped apart. I had to pay somebody like $100, and I know that was like a 10-minute job, man. And you know what I'm saying? Had I known motherfucking desoldering, I could have did it, because that's all it was pretty much going up in there and welding them wires back together. But yeah, man, that's crazy, because that's applicable science, man. That ain't got nothing to do. We ain't even got into cosmology yet. The kind of science you talking about is what I was talking about, like general labor. Like a lot of coaches running the general labor fields, we forgetting about that, like HVAC, like you said, desoldering and just dealing with shit that you can have your own little company with without necessarily working for nobody. You've been seeing trucks all your life with plumbing companies, HVAC companies, shit like that. I always thought that was really the way out, me personally, as opposed. See, one thing I say, what you think about this, Q Butter? Let me ask you something. You got the businessman versus the family business. And the businessman basically go to school, you know what I'm saying, get the degrees and come out and work for a corporation, do it big. But his children may have to do the same thing, whereas the businessman may not go to school that much. He get just enough to get some kind of trade, start a little business, and actually pass that shit down for generations to his child. What do you say before we go into the deep bill about flat earth and cosmology, about the businessman versus just the regular humble family business?
I think I could tie it all together. My pops, when I first started Zyx, he told me that, Q, I didn't raise you to be no businessman. And it threw me off. And then he was like, you got to be cutthroat, willing to do certain things that the corporate world is not willing to do. And I didn't understand it as that. I'm like, no, you have to be entrepreneurial. So before I go into entire to, I guess, the deep aspect, there's a book called The Jewish Phenomenon. And in that book, they highlight, the author highlights why Jewish people making up one of the smallest percentages in the country have so much economic wealth. And a lot of times people always attribute it to their religious nature or religious to their culture. And it's the underlying things in their culture. And one of the things that I think number 4, it was 7 principles. And I think the 4th principle was the only successful person is a businessman or a professional. So I think that kind of describes both of what you're saying. So you could be a corporate person or you could be a professional, but be one, and don't mistake fame for being successful. A successful person is a person who's an entrepreneurial person whose business is running, who's living off their business. You're successful. And they highlight that culture. And in our culture, it's not. Like my father, like I had to really sit my pops down, and I love my pops, and tell him like, look, he's still waiting for me to make $1 million off of music. And I'm like, Daddy, like I've been paying my bills for 13 years. I've been in business 11 years with a studio. I've been paying my bills, doing what I got to do. I don't borrow no money from y'all. Like if I do need help, I just like once in a blue, like on my own. I built my own institute. That's not good enough. And it's the perception that our community has of what, like you said, the businessman. Oh, where's your suit? Where's your tie? That's also kind of what made me drop out of college. When I went to Medgar Evers, I came from a real multicultural school. There was a lot of white people in there, Spanish, everybody in there. Everybody's all full of love, a lot of money. Everybody's just helping everybody out. I get to Medgar Evers, and not to say, our people are healing, and in the process of healing, we're still dealing with each other as if we're sick and zombie-like. And so that was my experience there. And so like when I wore a suit, everybody looked at me from down the hall, and my mentor would shake my hand all good. And then when I came in there, it might have smelled like a little bit of weed, or I looked street, had my gold teeth in. He would almost walk past me, not even notice me. And I'm like, bro, I'm the same person, and that misconception of it. And it's so funny because that's what we were just talking about on the phone before, how I have a full astronomy program now. I got more telescopes in my program than my mentor does. And he's still been running Medgar Evers. And, we have a full engineering program. Our program is, kicking ass. And I went to his program. I can't even recruit none of his students because they can't do nothing I need here. Within the next year to 2 with the students, they're going to be so far advanced from the kids in this college. It's just a perception of it. And so that brings me to the how I see it being all interconnected. The government and the people in power, they kind of created the perception of what a businessman looks like. They created the perception of and took away from what it is to be a professional and someone who's a craftsman on purpose, and it was for the manipulation and the controlling ultimately of society for their own purposes. It's a small percentage, and we know for us in the Black community, that's white folk. And we know the bigger picture that it's a small percentage of white folk that's doing that and controlling everything. That's the reality. So, what the historic Black colleges I was just talking about, that was started by FDR and Carnegie's, and that was also for the purpose of creating that elite looking Black person and carving out our classes that we're supposed to look like. Just for example, in Howard University, to go to their school of business, you can't have dreadlocks. You can't. They'll cut you. You have to cut your hair in order to be in that program. That's despicable. You know what I mean? That's despicable. And that's exactly what I experienced at Mega Evers when I'm like, yo, I got my own business. I pay my bills. I do what I got to do. I'm taking for the community. Oh, no, you got to wear a suit and look like look like one of them. Like, look like, take on their whole culture. And it's sickening. And so for me, with the sciences, that interplays because business is directly related to science, and in the Black community, we have the Black banks are being completely decimated. And there's I think 16 Black banks left or 17 Black banks left in the country. 5 closed in the last 3 years. Last year, 2, if I'm not mistaken, 1 merged. And in 1986, there was 100, I believe, or something like that, or if not even more. And so, in my opinion, when we were aligned more with crafts and sciences, we had the money coming in that sustained the banks. And because this banks took on this perception of, just get a job in a big universe, and inside, I read the comment. I mean, get a job inside of the universe, the society, a white man's society, and focus on that. Get a state job and do these things. We stopped looking at the craftsmen. We gave up respect for the craftsmen. We took on the elitist Bill Cosby perspective, not to say, so to say, and we chased that, and we are where we are now.
Yo, man, that is deep right there. I agree with that, man. Any group of people that abandon their sciences, abandon their foundation. And I'm going to tell you something. We're going to shift it toward the cosmology now because I do a lot of research in cosmology. And I know you teach a lot of science. But I teach a lot of the parents on my channel, because a lot of my people are flat earthers. I teach them that they got to go to school and teach their children. Excuse me. I'm drinking. I'm feeling good and bubbly. Hit the like button, y'all. I'm gonna keep it real. But I teach a lot of parents on my channel, man, that to let their children go to school, learn all the damn shit they can in school and master that curriculum. And also when they get home, to be one up on everybody else. Then the parents got to be teaching them the real shit behind the matrix too, even how the school system designed against them. So it's crazy. Like I be teaching the folks, like it's one thing to just tell your kids to excel in the matrix, but now they got to be like Neo and know all about the matrix and about the world behind the matrix. They got to know the two sides of the coin in order to get the one up. So do you think there's any kind of alternative sciences that will rival just the mainstream curriculum that they teach us in the school systems? In other words, is there something that you teach your students that they'll never be able to get in college or never be able to get in a regular school system, because this kind of knowledge just go beyond what we know those in power want us to know?
Well, I think that's a very locale based question. Some of us experience, like even here, I have one of my partners, his experience in elementary school is nothing like, he went to school upstate New York. And so, like we'll say, if you go to school with white folks or you go to school with what that's typically where the good neighborhoods, schools are, you learn something differently and you experience a lot more just in the lab. Like my schools didn't have no labs. We didn't really experience a lot of that stuff. So with that being said, in Brooklyn, we're experiencing, and from what the concentration I have on like 10 different cities to 15 cities is kind of the similar experience. One, we're not being afforded. So it goes into, remember I said earlier, economic zoning is all tied together. So your tax base, the amount of money that your housing taxes collect, your businesses, the council, or however your committees are organized in your county, all these things go into supporting and developing your schools. And the 10 major cities where Black people are, that's all over the place. You know, the property values is all over the place. Gentrification is reshaping the landscape economically and physically in ways that nobody's really able to keep up with. It's a very weird question. So for me, I'm going to say, one, just the basic is an experience that our black youth aren't getting. And that's sad. You know what I mean? So and it's, you know, I had somebody argue with me when I was like, yo, the GED is more important than focusing on the Bible. And it's like, oh, that's the white man stuff. I said, bro, the average person in Brooklyn, there's 1/5 of Brooklyn needs their GED. Brooklyn is, I don't got the percentages in front of me, but there's 2 million people, just like 2 million people in Brooklyn, 1.5. It's a lot of people in Brooklyn, and it ends up being almost 250,000 black men who forget needing their GED, who cannot perform on the level of an 8th grader. They're reading, and I'm teaching these brothers, and their reading level is on a 2nd grade level. So you can give them a document and they're reading it and comprehending it the same way a 2nd grader would. And these are adults. Millions of people in our community who are like, this is just straight, let me give you a document. Can you read this? You know, can you understand the main topic that the passage is asking for you? We can write our own black passages. We don't even have to take anything from the white man. We can make our own story, straight black, and it's still the same issue. So right now, to me, that's the focus point where we have to fix the core parts, and then we can properly look at the second layer. You know, when, you know, I respect, and that's why I came with a platform. I've spoken to a lot of flat earth, not to say like people who believe or with the flat earth. And I know for a fact they haven't finished, I know where they're at educationally speaking. And then they try to say, oh, Q, you think you're smart? And I'm like, no, I just know you have the comprehensive level of a 3rd grader. So it's going to be hard for you to understand something that's developed for a 9th grader. And I teach this, and I understand how to teach, because I just rewrote my curriculum so that way we can have our 8-year-olds learning material that's for high school instead of them stretching it out. And so that to me is indirectly also answering what you asked, where once we understand the curriculum, we can remove the BS and the bullshit from it, and then we can give it to our babies in our community in an effective way. And that's where I'm at right now. Literally speaking, I got the curriculum sitting on my other screens, and that's what I've been working on every single day. And somebody said, I didn't call us 3rd grade mentality. I'm saying that there is a large portion of people, and the people that I specifically spoke to in my studio, who I've also signed up for my GED program. You see what I'm saying? So like, and they came to me, you know, I'm not trying to put like that, you know, there's people, I know a lot of people. So I've just had these conversations with many different people, and, you know, I analyze everybody. Going forward, like you said, the experience and the information. So for example, teaching the Paleolithic period is what I'm teaching the children today. And I've been teaching them ancient humans for the last week. In the Paleolithic period, when you type in Paleolithic period or documentary, it's very confusing. And so if you're a teacher and you're not sitting there going over the material and making sure you're telling the kids, no, that's bullshit. No, don't believe that. Oh, look, this is all theoretical. They're still figuring it out. I have to tell the kids the Neanderthal is not the same Neanderthal that I was taught that you're taught. I was taught a whole different story when I was in. We were taught if you're over 35, you were taught a whole different story of the human history. Now it's updated with genetics and DNA testing and of these things. So I teach the kids that. I also show them examples of how racism exists in the system. For example, with Lucy, I give them the example, where is the oldest artifact for hominids found? They point at the continent, they point at the country, and I say, wouldn't it make sense that hominid have a name in respect to that country's culture? They say, yeah, if you found something in Russia, you should probably name it after someone who's Russian. If you find something in Ethiopia, it should have probably an Ethiopian name. And I explained to them that they put the name Lucy on it. That's an example of racism and their ability to do that, and people accept it and they have the power to play that out. And so I explained to the children that when we refer to Orthopoliticus afarensis, I tell them that her name is Nubia. You see what I mean? So this is for me how I'm teaching the children to understand the lies, see through the BS and understand it and be able to think it through, through the questions and the rhetoric and the style of teaching that I use, so that way they can understand it and say, oh, I get it. I'm not trying to force it down their throat and say, this is what it is. This is just, let me know if I get a little long-winded, bro. You know what I mean?
No, you can be as long-winded as you want, because this is, your show. And the people in the chat, my people, they really loving to hear you speak. Again, people go in the video description area and subscribe to Q Butter right now and hit that like button. And Q Butter, what I'm gonna do right now, my brother, is we about to talk about the Paleolithic period, Lucy, and how you said you may change the name around to get them to see through the lies. But before we do that, I need to take 30-second to a minute break. So if you want to mute your mic, you can. I'll be right back in 1 minute. We're gonna play some music and I'll be right back. Appreciate that, y'all. Appreciate y'all for holding on. All right, we back in the building. Appreciate y'all for being patient. Now let's pick up where we left off. Q Butter, let me ask you something. I'm gonna pass you the mic right back. I got a couple questions for you. Do you believe in evolution? Do you think that evolution is a fact? Where do you stand on evolution? Because the Lucy Bones are in support of evolution. So what do you think about evolution before we move forward? You want to talk about that a minute?
Yeah, evolution is real. It's an observed, thing. You see it all over. And I think it's one of the more beautiful things of life. I just think that the package in which it was, sold through was, that's the history of science. It's like gynecology. Do you believe in gynecology? You know what I mean? Like, gynecology has a very sick history for Black people, especially for our sisters. And so, evolution and the people who delivered it have a very bad history, and the connotation that it was packaged in and the way it was sold was wrong. But it's an observational, thing. You can see it in the designs of different species. Yeah, you see it from the femur bones,
How can you see it, and how can you see evolution in different species? This will be a point where we disagree, because I'm totally against evolution. I'm gonna give you my reasons in a minute, and I respect yours, my brother. My next question is, how do you see evolution in different species in nature? Show us an example if you can.
Well, evolution has many characteristics. So one, we adapt. There's similarities in the usage of the design attempts by nature to adapt. That's how I see evolution. And then you have the new baby. And if the baby is sterile, if the baby can make babies, and every generation you have changed. Like I just had my third son last week. None of my sons look exactly alike. They look alike, but they're all slightly different. And each generation has an advancement, has a defect, it has something that's different. And those differences, when isolated, create change. So we see that with certain groups of people who the sex pool, meaning like the amount of people, I don't know if I worded that right, with the amount of people in a specific area, there's only a certain amount of people where the sex can only happen with so many couples. And then you start to have distant cousins having sex with distant cousins, and more distant cousins having sex with other distant cousins, until you start having the similar phenotypes just consistently running through the community. And you see that in certain parts of the world where certain phenotypes are specifically to those areas. That's one thing with humans that you see, and it's re-expressed through time. You see also the adaptation to the locale, your location. Going forward, now on the bigger scale, it's a matter of classification of animals in the animal kingdom. So on that scale, it's a very, easy tool to use. So when I teach the kids, the opposable thumb, the eyeball socket, the brain stem, these things, and who else has these similar things? Bipedal animals, animals that are quadrupedal animals, like these things, who has a paw? Why do these animals all have a paw? Like, is there anytime somebody says, oh, we come from monkeys? I said, bro, monkeys, no, we don't come from monkeys. But if you click on that tooth, your fang, that tooth right there, and the amount of teeth in between it shows our relationship with other mammals. Our nose to jaw positioning, our jaw, the way our jaw hangs. When you have the opposed, I forgot the name of the jaw on. I got to teach this one about the canines. I forgot the name of it's like the snout jaw. How the snout jaw developed first, and through gravity and different things over time in millions of years. And then also what we got to add in is there's a lot of narcissism in anthropology, and there's a lot of jumping. There's a lot of jumps that's made in anthropology. So for me, I start off to say, one, and I tell the children, we found a piece of jaw over there. You found a piece of spinal bones over there. You found another skull bone over there. And this was how anthropology developed over years. It was just piecing together bones and pieces without DNA and without DNA and without being able to map what's actually going on inside of the organisms. And that happened in the 90s when we were able to map and actually see the genetic outcome, the genetic makeup of different organisms, to see what similarities they have, what genetic markers they have, what's the difference between different things, how did different things evolve, and why do different things evolve. So, and then I've also been posed by a lot of people, Q, that's BS, the government made it up. And I hear that. I'm like, all right, cool, I'm into science, I'm into science, so I'm not going to be one to super agree with that, but I also understand my enemy, and I understand what my enemy's using and the weapons that are being used and made through the understanding of evolution. So down to the Carnegies spent millions of dollars on performing genetic trials, collecting blood samples of different ethnic groups throughout the early 1900s. They organized and used their semi-pseudo understanding of biology to create different drugs, different hormonal chemicals to affect our community effectively. And, I have to consider all of those things. And so for me, when I see my enemy using it, I've read the information on it, I understand what it is. It's just that's my take on evolution. And then my last part, how I was raised on evolution, was that, see, I was taught evolution through my pops differently. He said, look, Q, white people discovered evolution, and then they try to say that white people were the most effective and the most advanced version of humans. Then once they did their science and got into biology, they found that they're actually the defective gene. They're actually the inferior version of humans. Then going forward from that, now we get up to where we are now. Evolution is actually showing that white people are kind of dying off. And it's, it's kind of sad, but it is what it is.
So evolution is showing that white people are dying off. And now, see, I disagree with that, because what I would say is that statistics is showing that white people are dying off, but statistics ain't really evolution. Now, I'm going to tell you why I'm not a really big fan of evolution, because the further back you go, the more primitive the creation is. You said we don't come from monkeys or apes, but we come from something primitive than what we are right now if you embrace evolution. So um, we got to trace evolution back to its roots. We got to go to the Big Bang because evolution start with the Big Bang. We both are.
Nah, that's my bad. Nah, my bad.
No, you can cut in. You can cut in.
Nah, continue your build. I hate when people do that to my fault. Shut up.
Yeah. I say evolution start with the Big Bang because when you look at the evolutionary timeline, the first thing on the evolutionary timeline is a rock hitting the ocean, a collision from space. And that starts the life form as a primitive life form in the ocean. And that primitive life form in the ocean, to make a long story short, basically crawls onto the land, become the Lucy type Sasquatch Bigfoot creature that they faking, you know what I mean? But there's so many gaps in evolution. The whole Big Bang is a real pseudoscientific explanation for how life started. And when you look at evolution of life starting from a cosmic soup in the ocean, from a germ, and then evolving to ape creatures, and then evolving to cell phone carriers that's rocking True Religion jeans, it's starting to be like, hey, you ain't gonna fool me with all of that. Now that take a lot of belief. Can you see why someone like myself would say, hell no, BS, evolution is straight up BS. There's no way that this immaculate, perfect, stable, consistent creation started from, first of all, a mishap called a Big Bang, which is like a mistake, you know, a very 1 in a million chance of just a rare explosion from nothing. Is then, like I say, evolving through a cosmic soup through all of these creatures. And you know, and you look outside today, everything is so structured and there's so much diversity. I can't really believe that what we experiencing in our reality is a result of evolution, and that all of this evolved from a more primitive creation. I just can't get jiggy with it, but I'm always open to hear, you know, the different evolution beliefs, because yours may be different than the typical shit we used to hearing, like it started from the Big Bang and the cosmic soup. So what do you think about that whole evolution argument? Do you go with that one, or is yours different, or where do you stand on that?
Well, for me, how I was taught chemistry, my view of life is kind of weird. Like, life is a function of environment. So life will happen anywhere in this universe if the environment allows it. And the continuation of life based off the laws of the universe and how the universe developed its laws gave us what we are. I don't see the Big Bang for life. That's the first I heard that term used like that for the ocean, a meteorite hitting the ocean, bringing life. I would say the meteorites bring different elements, but we're not sure. That's why I said I'm cool with saying I don't know. You know, and I think sometimes it's the journey and discovering and trying to figure out what we don't know is what it is. The pompous nature and the corporate nature behind science is to profess that you know, and certain sciences aren't exact sciences. You know, anthropology is almost has never been an exact science. It's always been very presumptionary, based off of perspectives, a lot of assumptions. And so there's no ruler with it, only until the Human Genome Project in biology. And I employ any Black person I employ any person, build your own lab. You know, this is the generation where we can build our stuff. We can test these things. And, you know, when you look up a couple choosing their child's sex, choosing the color of their child's eyes, choosing their hair, these are things that are the products of understanding evolution, understanding biology. And the biological sciences have been largely developed and weaponized. You know, for me, That's one of the biggest selling points. I'm not allowed or afforded to not believe in it, just sheerly off of the weaponization of it. You know, they've used genetics and the understanding of genetics to use high fructose corn syrup to wage war on the Black community through high fructose corn syrup, through other chemical agents that we have no clue. We didn't have no clue that was going on. We was eating Ajax and cereal and loving it. And then, you know, corporates got so rich and greedy, they took it all over the place and was killing everybody. Once everybody got in between the lines, like, hold on, they're just raping everybody. But they attacked and tested a lot of these products on our community first, and we had no position to defend ourselves. You know, when we were lead in the water, paint, we had no understanding. People don't even know what lead is. They just know that it's something bad. They don't even know what phosphate is. They don't even know that, like, the minerals. I hear people talk about Fiji water in the Black, everybody drinking Fiji water, but they don't know what minerals are. They can't even recognize their rocks. You know, they don't know where water comes from. You know, a lot of people don't know the process. Like, I'm teaching the children the ablation process. That's one of the most important processes that we have for our water, you know, and the creation of glaciers and the maintenance of the water levels and the oceanic levels on the planet. These are things that we're not being afforded to learn. And because of that, it's again dampening our ability to understand. And so going forward and going backwards back to what you were saying, having an understanding of biology is foundation. Now, how we approach it is going to take the scientific method. So we're going to agree on the scientific method and we're going to classify things. So the first thing we're going to do is start to organize things based off of characteristics that we can see and things that we can measure now. Before we couldn't measure. So of course we're going to say we agree that there's mammals, right? We agree that mammals and reptiles are different. We can slice open a reptile and we can slice open a mammal and observe the positions of the spine, observe the position of the cerebellum, observe the position of the brainstem, observe the position of the phalanges, the fingers, all these different things, the way and we can see and deduce in engineering, the first thing you do is subtract. And that's deductive engineering, where you deduce the answer by subtracting the things that are not needed and subtracting your knowns. So you start to see, like, all right, it's a well-known fact that a mammal and a reptile are different. However, a mammal, they both use universal joints to make their knees move. Like I forgot the name of the joint for the kneecap, the joint for the pelvis. The same type of joint that's at the pelvis is at the same type of joint damn near for all animals who walk. The kneecap, there's only, I think, very few animals that have an opposite shaped kneecap, and they developed it similarly. And then when you look at the genetic makeup, they all have a similar, they have a trait that they have similarly through evolution or through mutations or whatever we want to call it. When we analyze the femur bones and we analyze how, all right, these things have similarities. And so when we categorize them, we're going to put them in groups and we're going to try to figure out what made these groups separate, what make these groups different. And the study of that is evolution. So it's not like it's something on the side. It's just understanding why these things are different, you know. And at some point, for me, it's knowing that the commonality is Earth. The commonality is that we're all on Earth experiencing Earth. We're all getting energy from the sun. Most of us eat vegetation or eat something that eats vegetation. That's our commonality. You know, anything walking on the surface pretty much breathes air. You know, we're part of the nitrogen cycle. All of these things are commonalities and facts. And we work our way through the facts. We're going to understand how things develop. So evolve and develop have a similar root word, if I'm not mistaken, through etymology or whatever. And so when we talk about the development of different species and how we define a species is very simple. Can you have sex and make a baby? Forget all of the extra words. If you can't have sex and make a baby and that baby not be sterile, you're not the same species. It's very simple. You know, so like I ask my students, if you found the jawbone of a Rottweiler or a bull mastiff buried underneath some rocks, and then you found the bone of a Chihuahua, one of those small dogs buried in some rocks, without being able to analyze their DNA, it's really going to be hard to say that they're the same species. And especially if you only have so many pieces. And so, you know, Yeah.
But you know, I'ma just say this. The way you explain evolution is interesting. It's still not enough to convince me on it. I got another explanation for the diversity that we see. And the reason why I can't go with evolution, my brother, is because, you know, the further back we go in the past, the more primitive the creation is. That's a fact. When you deal with evolution, the further back we go, the more primitive. Or another word, excuse me, what they call primitive is basically dumb. You know, they got the Flintstones and all of that to show us what primitive look like. And the further back we go, the creation is more primitive. So to me, it's another way of saying God or the Most High, or you know, that the creator of this creation is dumb. It's saying that intelligence came from ignorance, meaning that the original humans was like dumb Flintstone type creatures. They didn't know no better. That's crazy, because during the time those dumb humans would have lived, we still see different type pyramid structures and step pyramids built. So there's a lot of flaws in the evolutionary timeline. One is that you can't have evolution without the connection between apes. A lot of people say, well, we weren't apes. Well, you got to be apes if you're going to say evolution, because the conception of the evolutionary theory started with Australopithecus. So you rename the Lucy bones to another name, and I think that's interesting. But what I'm going to say is there's a stigma amongst black people. We don't like when people call us monkeys. And calling black people monkeys go all the way back to Darwin's time. Evolution was a racist theory created to classify people. And today, eugenics wouldn't exist without evolution. But now, that's my stance on why I don't really accept evolution. I respect yours, but I'm going to tell you, man, if it weren't for the apes and just the further back we go, the dumber the creation is, I probably can see into evolution. But I think there's a better explanation for the diversity. And I don't really think what we see, what separates today from the past, is a result of evolution. I think it's just what you said earlier. It's a result of adaptation. And see, adaptation wouldn't need evolution. It can stand alone, because all things can adapt to any environment over time. They'll find a way to adapt. Just like if when I moved to Korea, it was a totally different world in America, but I adapted quick. You'll be surprised what a creature can adapt to. Plants do it. Adaptation is different than evolution, because evolution is transformation over time. And if we evolve from apes, we would see a ape-like ape mixed with a human Sasquatch type creature still walking the earth, and that would be millions, if not billions, of population of that ape human creature, to show the gap where we was transitioning over time to become the creatures we are today. And we don't see chimpanzees and apes still evolving today. We don't see nothing still evolving today. And the excuse is that, well, it's a slow process, it happened lifetimes. Well, then that leaves science up to belief. Now that's why I can respect Q Butter, because I feel that you are a real one. When you said that we don't know it all and we still figuring it out, and I'm cool with saying I don't know. A lot of people can't do that, and I don't know as a fact how all this diversity come. I just don't believe it's evolution. You have a lot of strong points to support evolution, so I respect where you stand on it. I'm gonna go ahead and mute my mic. I know I'm being long-winded now.
Nah, you good. I'm listening, definitely listening. One thing I would say that And that's what that is the history. And that's what I meant when I said the packaging of evolution came out completely through some fucked up means. That's just what it is. You know what I mean? That's why I also said gynecology. You know, any black woman getting, you know, going to the gynecologist, if they don't know the history of gynecology and how it was started, you know, through the vaginas of black women being lacerated and destroyed and brutally violated without any types of anesthesia or any antibiotics, this was messed up. And so some of our sciences have a very, very sick history, biology included. You know, so now going forward, evolution the concept of it actually started off of birds. And the perception was that he thought that they were different types of birds, and then he realized they were all the same type, and they all developed slightly different adaptations to survive. Now, what I know, and this is why I said when I was taught the Neanderthal was a separate being. And so like I teach my children in the class, right now this is where I'm exactly what I taught them today. If we walked in the room, I could show my screen up there, exactly what I was teaching today and yesterday, how to see and understand the racism. So they teach that there were 5 types of hominids. So now they upgraded it to 5 types of hominids because they don't want to acknowledge that their time frame is wrong. And we have to know that the time frame is completely wrong because white people didn't exist past the Neolithic period. And that's pretty much the reality. And that was the history that they discovered in the 1800s, that white people haven't been here that long. And if you go any further, it's maybe into the Mesolithic. And they were very much in sprinkles and largely Neanderthals. Neanderthals were thought to be in a completely different species, but the rule of biology is very, very clear. If you can make a baby and that baby isn't sterile, y'all are the same species. This is just a fact. It don't matter how different the dog looks, the cat looks, whatever it is. So and now the new theory is that white Neanderthals didn't die off; they were birthed out and sexed out, and we moved them out in that route. And Europeans have 3% Neanderthal DNA. Asians have also the same DNA in them, and so that understanding they don't want to teach. And then when you go forward into, of course, the Paleolithic period, they teach that there's 5 types of hominids, Australopithecus, whatever you pronounce it, habilis, going down to Homo sapiens sapien. And I teach the children that when they say Homo sapiens sapien, that's another way of them separating ancient Africans who are just humans. See, all of that BS, when I was telling you earlier, it's very difficult teaching the Paleolithic period, and I was taught it differently. See, my pops was into science, so he said, look, black people do not have a caveman history. So all of these pictures you're looking at are like cavemen. This is not our history. This is where we have to understand that this is a history that's not being understood, and then when they're finding the artifacts, they're hiding it and playing games with it. This is well known that white sciences have been playing games with anthropology and creating a narrative to include white people into it in a further beyond 30,000 years.
So what about the Lucy bones that you mentioned? Those were ape-like bones. So when I look at these, that would support what you said with the Lucy bones. You just renamed them to Nubia, but I mean,
those aren't Lucy bones you're looking at. Those are Neanderthals mostly. And some of them may be the hominids. They're hominids.
Well,
let me break it down. So we don't know shit until biology happened in 1995 in the sense of on the Human Genome Project. All of this stuff was just assumptions. And a lot of us were taught, this is what they find. You find a couple of those bones, you find a couple of these bones, find a couple of those bones, and we think they're all the same things. Now, what we do know is body structure, and that's what's categorized on. We know that if you have a smaller, I forget the tibia and the fibia, the shape of the tibia and fibia is also aligned to how the kneecap is used and the posture of the kneecap. the alignment of the kneecap will let you know, and the arrangement of the pelvis bone. So they find these things, and they also find them in different age periods where they know the lava might have, we can date the lava, we date other things around it to kind of come up with a guesstimation of what the dates are. But then even that is flawed to some extent. So, it's, and I teach the kids that this is a very flawed science, and it's discovery, and it's being built upon, and it's going to change every time we get something new discovered.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it. Like, facts don't change, but lies do. Like, if you get a liar going and you get him in the corner, he gonna have to keep changing that lie. And man, you know how that work. Like, we from the streets, so we know once somebody lying, they gotta keep changing the lie. But if you tell the truth, it's just the truth. That's it. That's gonna stand forever, man. You know what I'm saying? Just like that. But this type of science changes because it's theoretical. The root word of theory is theo, which is God. And this is just another form of eugenics, another form of Darwinism, racism, and just blasphemy against Mother Nature, if you ask me, because first of all, it's not even science, because like you said, science is really not a noun per se. In its original essence, science is a verb, it's something you do, and it starts with the scientific method. Now, if you don't do science that make you a believer of science, that's when science becomes a noun to you, because you didn't take the action or the verb to become the scientist. So if all the action I took was believing the scientist, that's not enough to make me a scientist, but it is enough to make me a believer. And when you deal with believers, you're dealing with theology, theories, theoretical stuff, where you say you believe in a scientist, but you ain't necessarily the scientist because you didn't do the verb of the scientific method. Like, we didn't find the bones, we didn't do any type we don't own the type shit to put the chip of the lucid bone on our microscope to even see if it's real. It can be some other shit. We don't know. We got to take their word, and once we do that, at that moment, we're no longer a scientist, we're a believer, because we didn't do the scientific method, and now we believe, and we taking their word that they found these bones and it is what it is. And that's when Brother Sanchez say, hey man, forget these folks. I don't believe in no lucid or none of that crap. If it's a theory, it's theoretical, it's not factual. And then I start looking for my own facts absent of these liars. Because when you deal with facts, there's not even room for theory or theoretical thought. So that's why a lot of people say to hell with like evolution and the lucid bones and stuff like that. But now a lot of people who agree with evolution would strengthen their beliefs on evolution after hearing this bill with you, because you do present some good arguments on it. But what destroys evolution, in my opinion, is the foundation of it is belief. There's no way for me to test it. I will have to just believe these guys. But I really don't think that you can find any bones that's over 10 million years old. And I don't know how, did I say 10 million? I'm really pushing it. That's a lot. Let's say, how about 250,000 years old? So I don't know how old a Lucy Bones is, but they should be somewhere around. Matter of fact, the Lucy Bones are 3,200,000 years old. And at that time, I believe you're ashes to ashes and dust to dust. Like, if you go and open up like Kunta Kinte grave site right now, you ain't gonna see nothing. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. But for some reason, these scientists want to convince Brother Sanchez that they found some bones that's over 3 million years old, Q-Butter. Yo, brother, I just can't do it. Now, you said you're an atheist. I have to take an atheist stance on this one because I just ain't got no belief in this, and that's what it would take for me to go with it. Go ahead, my brother. Talk to him.
with this science, and that's why anthropology is very, we need more of us in anthropology. That's one thing that it's a straight fact. We need more Black people doing anthropology, more people of color, more indigenous people doing anthropology, studying our bones, categorizing our bones, maintaining what we find and getting into artifacts, coming up with our own ways of dating things. We don't have to use their ways of dating. We can come up with our own, and if we in the sciences, and we can argue it when we come up with our own, but we have to promote the sciences in it. And like you said, the eugenic push included education. And that's why they built they invested so much into the education system for Black people, and they pushed educational zoning so that way they can control the narrative, not just the narrative, the entire platform for Black education. Our ability to understand and even argue is based off of education. So with subjects such as these, finances, almost anything, it is really hard to navigate the arenas that we're set in because we don't have the information and we're not in the fields. So when we do business, a lot of us we jump into different businesses, but we don't have the help to go out there. We have to rely on white information. We have to rely on white media, right tools to do it. When we get into the sciences, we don't have a bunch of those science labs to say, oh, I want to go DNA test my own thing. No, you're going to end up going to a white lab. And so we have to promote science. And that's why I gladly came on your platform, because to me, at the end of the day, I'm like, look, whether or not we have the same view on the globe or the earth, it's a scientific conversation. And, that's what it is. We're not talking about religion. Even if we discuss religion, there'll probably be more of a scientific approach to it rather than, us, discussing verses and different, religious books. To I guess to conclude, our understandings of things that we can't measure is always going to be, scrutinized and held to a certain position based off our beliefs and our history with the people that's providing the information to us.
I'm speaking with the mic muted. All right, so yeah, man, I can feel you on that. Now, what I'll say is we don't necessarily have to rely on a scientist. It's funny that the word lie is in the word rely, because most of their shit is a lie. But yeah, it go back to what I was saying. Like we got to learn it. We got to go by it. There's a lot of things that we do rely on. For example, you are a baby daddy. You getting a DNA test. You're gonna go get the DNA test and listen to what they tell you. And you believe in that. You didn't do it. You didn't look under a microscope. You got a paper printed. It said not the father. You believe in that. So what are you going to do in that case? Not rely on these signs. What are you going to do? One of them tricky subjects, right? So what I would like to say is, in my journey to interpret reality for myself, what I like to do is eliminate anything that require a rapid leap of belief. And if, like you said, if I can't know something, that's better than having a belief about it. Like, I don't know.
Say that again. That was very deep. Say that again.
Yeah. If I'd rather not know something, and that would be better than just having a belief about it. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I can relate to what you're saying and how you approach science. That's what kind of led me into flat Earth. Like I couldn't know that there were other worlds and other galaxies out there because I never got on a rocket and went out there. So I would have to believe an astronaut or believe NASA. So a lot of people may laugh and say, dang, he believed the Earth is flat, but I don't really believe the Earth is flat. I know it's flat because I walk outside every day and see a flat horizon line and a root where the horizontal is horizon. And whenever it bends, it's no longer a horizontal line or a horizon line. So I look at Nut and Gab, I see Gab represent the Horus energy or the horizon line. And I don't have to believe that because I see that. I've been in the airplane, I even saw it from there. But I haven't never saw it ball up. But the astronauts said they did, so I have to believe them now that this flat ground, this horizontal horizon line, balls up at a certain height and you can go to these other balls in different worlds. So that's when I drew the line. That's funny, drew the line. We talking about the horizon. That's when I drew the line, right, and said, you know what, I'd rather just stick with flat Earth because it don't require any belief. I know that it's flat. I will have to believe in gravity. I will have to believe in diamond planets. I will have to believe in so much to have the globe. So that's what kind of led me in flat Earth. But I don't, debate it anymore because we all, see the Earth how we want to see it from how we, what kind of science we use to interpret this reality. And though my science may lead me to accept flat Earth and yours may lead you to accept a globe, I don't think nothing wrong with that. I think that if we do like what you said earlier and like, hey, the shit we don't know, like, for example, you mentioned something to the nature of, hey, I may stand on what these scientists say until I reach a level to debunk what they saying. Like me personally, I ain't saved up enough to get any kind of microscopes or nothing. I know you got some in your institute. That's dope. But we don't have the instruments to look at blood and stuff yet. I know them some real expensive type shit right there. Probably take a year to fund one of them joints. So until we get that, either we gonna rely on what they say because they got them, or just say, no, I don't believe them. That's the only two options because you can't know for yourself. And that's why I say you're a real one for that, because a lot of folks come up here in my chat room can tell you. They act like they just know it. And I think you came up here, you presented a lot of good arguments and still left an open mind. Like, and that's what a real scientist was all about. Like, the scientists really ain't got the answers. They got the questions that lead to more answers and new discoveries and breakthroughs and shit like that. So I will have to admit that I'm guilty of something you said. I do rely on these scientists that run our world for a lot of stuff, and a lot of people in the chat room as anti-government, or they may want to be. I know I am. We still rely on a government for at least half of the shit we need in our life. We rely on the very scientists that we bitch and complain about. So when Q better take a stance that's like, hey, let's get beyond just bitching about these scientists, and then let's come with something better. Then let's come with something to challenge they shit on our own. Up until then, you got to rely on the people that got the equipment, the people that's, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's really that simple for real. Ain't nowhere around that. Like, either you gonna rely on them or build what they call an alternative science, and that's what I did. Now, when you do that, that may not be necessarily applicable in the modern world. It's gonna be applicable, but it's gonna be, this is the alternative shit that they really trying to suppress. The occult type sciences, we know it's two different kinds. But at the same time, they both have their roles, and that's why I said our kids today gotta take the red pill and a blue pill to make it. Because when you put the red pill together with the blue pill, you get the purple pill, and that's one of my aliases. And the purple is royalty, the pineal gland, the purple pill. That's the thing about Neo. He didn't just take the red pill. If you born in the Matrix, you already got the blue pill by default. So when you take the red pill, it becomes the purple pill. And now you're seeing through the third eye, which is seeing beyond a duality. That means I can see where they deceiving us in the schools and the education system and the science fields because we got to rely on them. And I also can see how it can be beneficial to learn the ancient sciences where, for example, people that don't even have all the technology we got, Q-Butter, some of these people that have been living deep in the Amazon jungles, some of the bushmen out there, don't even know what a defibrillator is. You know, never heard of augmentin, never heard of Ritalin, you know, never wore a suit in their life, never heard of the word degree or college, but they outlive us. They outlive our top scholars and scientists over here with all these books and suits and ties and esteemed degrees. These people in the jungle sustain themselves for generations. Whereas these civilizations crash and rebuild, crash and fall, and can't seem to be stable. People that never saw a doctor in their life outlive us. Some of these people, I was watching a documentary the other day. They was doing a special on a tribe in the Amazon. These guys put the little mittens on their hands and they let the ants bite them. Some of you may have saw that. Just pull it up. You'll see what I'm talking about. But anyway, man, some of the people have saw this ritual happen for over 2 generations, meaning some of the sages in them tribes is 95, 100, and still sitting up there smoking on a pipe. And I'm like, what the fuck? What are they doing? Because guess what? They eating wild plants that they tell us are dangerous. Don't eat. They're eating, you know, they so connected with the earth. And we so connected with like the medications, the prescriptions. The doctor is just another drug dealer. A lot of people find out you get healed when you go into the jungle and get with a lot of celebrities couldn't heal themselves in this country. Went to the shamans, went to the jungle, healed themselves in a month. So it's like something we got to deal with. Like, are we really advanced as we say? And of course we got to rely on them because none of us are a shaman in the jungle. None of us are scientists in the damn laboratory. So we're very vulnerable for the knowledge we lack, which do make us reliant. That's why I can relate to what you're saying, because it do make us reliant. It make us rely on our own critical thinking and mind for the most part, and I think that's the first step to breaking free. Sorry for being that long-winded, brother. I'm gonna pass the mic back to you.
No, I was listening. I was listening.
I can lead off into another question too, because if we done with that bill, if you don't got nothing to say behind that bit, I can go with some questions. I don't know how long you got, because I know you like 3 hours ahead of me, but we've been going for about an hour and a half. Shout out to all 300 people watching. Hit the like button. You got any questions or anything you want to say before I move forward, my brother? Hold on, let me do one thing before you do that. All right, cool, there we go. People, it's free to hit the like button. That don't cost nothing. All right, so go on, hit the like button. Do you got anything to say, my brother, before I move on?
Now we can move on.
All right, so this next question I got for you, my brother, is how much research have you done on flat Earth cosmology, and do you call yourself comedic in certain instances? And how do you interpret Nut and Gale?
I don't. I'm not an atheist, so not to say it like that. I study history, and I know there's a lot of perspectives that people in ancient times had, and it's cool. That was a perception.
Now, you know what? That's dope. That's why I can interview you anytime, brother. That's what's up right there. My brother say, I don't, man. Hey, they had their perceptions, and that's cool. I do what I do. And that's why I think y'all need to subscribe to Q-Butter, man, because, yeah, especially if you live in the area of the brother, man, your kids can benefit from what he do. I don't have too much questions for you. Let me see here. I got some stuff wrote down. Oh, when it comes to evolution, a lot of what we call an evolution is just the manipulation of nature. The elites are terraforming this place. It's a lot of animals that exist today that never existed, and they're the creation of man and not nature. And today it's hard to determine what's natural and what's not. You know, if you look at an old movie called The Island of Dr. Moreau, they show you how you can terraform a place and an ecosystem. And it like all the fruit we eat today is hybrid. All the humans are damn near hybrid today. Nothing is in its original state, and it's not a result of evolution. It's a result of natural, the manipulation of nature. They manipulating DNA every day. They manipulating our DNA and vaccinations and all kind of poisons and stuff. It's getting in you. They're terraforming not only us and the food, they're terraforming the earth. And with that being said, when you talk about ways you can manipulate DNA, you could go by glow-in-the-dark goldfish. These goldfish never existed before on Earth. They're a patented species. They were created by a dude who spliced the genetics of a underwater jellyfish. You know, when you go deep in the ocean, the creatures become luminescent. They light up. So some scientists decided, hey, we can take the genes of some of these self-luminant creatures, blend it with some light creatures that's not, and we can make glow-in-the-dark creatures. Like they got glow-in-the-dark goldfish as a result of that. And like that's nothing natural. Like years from now, people may say, hey, goldfish evolved to glow in the dark, but really what happened was the DNA was manipulated. And you said something interesting today. Rich people can go and tell the doctor what kind of child they want to have. And it's not really that we're so advanced today in our DNA manipulation. It's that we're going back to the future. The ancients already knew everything that scientists said they just discovered today. They just watered it down during the dark ages to create a matrix and resell it to you. So all of the people that's patenting stuff today saying they discovered this, invented that, those are liars. Our ancestors been discovered this, invented that. They just recreated the world during the Renaissance. And what really happened during the Renaissance was a rebirth of ancient concepts that we still undergoing through this day. Like they could have been brought out the iPhone fucking 10,000, but they gonna keep walking you through it each year like a dope dealer cutting the dope, because knowledge is power. And they're not gonna give you all the knowledge right now. Then what they gonna sell you next year? You see what I'm saying? So they got to make it appear like we evolving better and better, but really the elite are hundreds and hundreds of years ahead of us, and they already got the advanced technology that the ancestors was already talking about. What they're doing is redeciphering ancient knowledge, and they're doing it very slowly, or let's say they're selling it back to us very slowly. But all the advancements we get are Johnny come lately. They already years ahead of us, and the ancients were already years ahead of them. So when we really understand what's happening in the occult side of things, it becomes very, very deep. But I agree with Q Butter. You got to live for tomorrow, man, and your children ain't gonna get too far teaching occult science. It's the difference between enlightenment and survival. Unfortunately, the path of enlightenment will not necessarily sustain you with your modern concept of survival. Let me clarify that, because enlightenment would always sustain you and help a species survive and sustain themselves. But real spiritual enlightenment got to happen behind closed doors, meaning that our kids go to school and learn a lie and come home and learn the truth. They get the lie just to fit into the matrix, to put their mask on, but they run their reality by knowing the truth, because the truth, the only thing gonna set them free. Even though the lie may get them a good job, the truth will make them a employer giving out the jobs. So the difference between the truth and a lie is knowing what Tesla knew, or actually paying for energy but having a good position at a corporation, or actually being an inventive mind that pioneer the future in the areas of science and all of this stuff, is to actually go against the modern scientific structure, because most of the breakthroughs and bright minds were what they call heretics. Even Jesus was one, but I'm not a religious person. But to advance society is actually to go against all the modern viewpoints and everything, because it's clear that those in power don't know what the fuck they're doing, man. We still, like, for example, we print money and it costs more to print the shit than the worth of the money. Now, you know that's dumb. It's a lot of things we do that's dumb. And when you look at the ancients, they were very simple and they didn't have the problems we have. So when you think of the concept of going back to the future and them now coming out with Tesla technology and Tesla energy devices and thinking green, this is old, most oldest, simplest stuff on the earth. And it's proven that it was never so complex after all, with all the big theories and suit and tie cats and the degrees, but that the ancestors knew what they was talking about all along. So let me just stop right there. And I don't really have a question for you. I just wanted to get that out there, and I'm gonna let you close us out and say whatever it is you want to say based on what I just said, or anything that's been said throughout the stream. You can go ahead and close us out.
Well, one, you said a great deal. That was definitely true. The people in power definitely played and still continue to play with the institutions that are vital for our survival. Even when you bring up the people who are surviving in different areas, they confused, scientists and different stuff, because the perception of evolution and their wording of it is not the correct wording. The fittest of the fit is not about, is who's best able to survive, who's able to survive and live, and so you have societies and humans that's been living in different parts of the world for thousands of years, and they want to call them, Homo sapien, whatever they added onto it. And so these things is, funny. And so for me, I promote science as much as it's possible to, to our community, the Black community, so that way we can inspire us to have more people not just being in the sciences, but actually being entrepreneurs in the sciences, building up the ability for us to take on the sciences, building up our own labs, embarking on different, social experiments. And I don't mean like walking around with a camera and stuff like that. I mean, like, no, we're going to build things for our community that's going to develop the livelihood of our entire society, and doing things on the level that change the world. And we have to just inspire that continuously, just as much as we inspire, others to play basketball in our community, or sports, rap, and I love all them things. But we got to be able to do that with the sciences and really understand it. And that'll protect us against from a lot of I would say, our underlining insecurities with sciences, because of this, because of the reality that we're in. And it's okay to be insecure. And there's nothing wrong with saying that. There's nothing wrong with saying, look, I don't feel safe with the information I'm getting. These people lied to me. They poisoned me. They killed all of my political leaders. They put blatant lies in books. They hate us on TV. They paint all of these images. Look what they do to their own people. That's just us. Look what they do to their own people. And how could I believe them? And so I can understand and empathize with someone who takes, a position as yourself, or whatever position. I was talking to someone who doesn't want to take any of the vaccines for their children. And I was discussing with them, I'm not an advocate, nor am I, against it's a very ugly situation. You know, we got the people we don't trust, the government we don't trust, sciences we don't know, and diseases that we know kill you. It's a very ugly situation to be in, and it's like, all right, are we going to listen to them, or do you want the threat of catching polio or tetanus, or you know, they don't even get chicken pox no more. It's funny to me. I'm like, wow, the kids don't even know what chicken pox is, and so. You know what I mean? Like, that was crazy to me. The teenagers in the school, they don't even know what that is. And it's like, wow.
I haven't saw chicken pox in so long, man. I need to research on that because that's fucking big. Like, how did that shit just went away? That's deep.
The vaccinations, you know, we have to be in the sciences. That's the only way to protect the society. Is just as much as they say we need to own guns, we need to be in the sciences. You know, for me, when you said 50%, of the governments in the house, I tell them, I teach my kids and I tell the community, for us to have power in the Black community, we have to understand that everything in our house is from the white man. You know, it's from their system. And if we don't understand it, we're using a microphone. I'm about to order a bunch of microphones that the kids can solder and put together from the beginning, from the start. They understand the chips. They put together all the, you know, the resistors in it, the capacitors. They put in all the different parts that come with it, or whatever else that comes with it. And I'm like, wow, like they need to learn this, and we need to understand this. And then when I hear people talking about getting 3D printers, it's like, yo, a 3D printer is only good as the person that's designing what you're printing. And then you have to know how to use the program. So let's talk about using the program and finding these kids that can draw in and see the world in 3 dimensions. I'm recruiting and looking for kids that can draw in and naturally see the world, and their hand coordination is there, and we can refine it and teach them how to use these CAD programs. And let's go past CAD. Let's make our own CAD program. That's true independence, and that way we don't have to believe it. We don't have to understand it. And when somebody says, oh, that's a computer-generated image, well, that's our computer. We made the computer. We made the lens. We made the camera. You know, but it's I can understand when you're like, look, I don't trust the government. I don't trust their lenses. I don't trust none of that, man. They be sharing lenses between Hollywood and NASA. They share lenses. I can't trust them. You wildin', B. I don't believe nothing they say. I can understand it. You know what I mean? So we just have to really delve into it. You know, for me, I've been, you know, my pops pushed me into sciences, and he was really hard. It was weird, whatever. But he pushed me into sciences in a certain way, so to say. And yeah. Conversations like these I grew up on. So have conversations like these with your children, man.
Oh, no doubt, man. And yeah, I'll do it all the time. I'm gonna tell you something. Excuse me. I'm gonna tell you something right now. Getting a little echo. Hold up 1 second. Getting a little echo on your end. I'm gonna just mute you for 1 second. But yeah, I just want to say, Q Butter got the realest approach to science that I've seen in a minute. If y'all agree with me that this brother got a real open-minded and just real approach to science, put a 1 in the chat room and go and subscribe to the brother channel. Like, he's a globe earther, I'm a flat earther, but we agree on so much that the debate is not even important. It's really beyond the debate now, because my children still go to school to learn about the globe, and they got to sell at that to make it. So, like I said, one of them is good for one thing, and the other one is good for another thing. And unfortunately, today you got to get both of them. If you ask me now, a lot of people may say, "Well, how is flat Earth important?" That's very important, but this ain't the show for that, even though we've done many on that. I just want to commend Q-Bud. I want to thank him for coming on. I hope he'll come back. And y'all need to go and subscribe to the brother. I see the ones in the chat. Let's go ahead and link these communities. Whether you agree with everything he teaches or not, if you go over there, you can get motivation, you can get good music, you can get good energy, and just good, brotherhood on that channel. I'm subscribed myself. So let's keep the camaraderie going. Like I said, it's best to have these. You know what, Q-Butter, unmute yourself whenever you want to cut in. I was talking to Q-Butter before the show, and I was ready to debate the brother about the flat earth. You know what the brother told me? He said, no, bro Sanchez, I'm willing to come on your show and have a discussion, but I'm not willing to debate you. So that shows you the level of maturity that we need in this YouTube community, and I want to commend the brother for that. Yeah, after you speak, Q-Bud, I'm going to end the show, and you can have the last word. I may shout out some super chats. But yeah, you can have the last word. After this, I'm going to close the panel. Thank you again, my brother, for coming on. I hope you come back, man.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. I definitely enjoyed the bill, man. These are good bills. These are the kind of bills we need to hear online. I'm there?
Yeah, my bad. I thought you was finna say something. Yeah, no doubt. I know it's kind of late on your end. I'm gonna let you get out of here. And guess what, man? You know how to contact me, Q-Butter. Just do that. And yeah, man, shout out to everybody that tuned in to today's show. Like I said, go ahead and hit the like button. Subscribe to my brother Q-Butter channel. And yeah, man, we'll see y'all on the next one. Peace and much love, my brother Q-Butter. I'm gonna close the panel right now, and we'll see all of these guys in the chat over on your side, because I know you go live a lot, just like I do.
Yeah, definitely. Shout out to everybody that's been supporting your platform. Great build. You know, we got to just continue to have healthy dialogue so we can just see through the mud. You know, there's a lot of muddy stuff out there, so we just got to continue to build and delve into the sciences and discover a whole. I love science. And since I built the institute and we got our little lab, I'm obsessed with science on a whole different, because I'm so much at the elementary level of it, and it's very humbling. It's very humbling.
Do you got a Patreon or GoFundMe or anything?
Yeah, for the institute, if you want to support us, GoFundMe /the Zyx Institute. We definitely use every dollar to go towards buying materials and supporting the institute. We have a lot of different things. If you're in Brooklyn, come by. We're looking for volunteers. And if you have your children, come by, bring them in the program. We have the homeschooling program. You know, whatever you could donate, you donate, but you could definitely bring your child to our program. Let's make it work. We got youth enrichment. We have an astronomy club. You know, it kind of sucks in New York, but we do have somebody that's willing to let us use the van. So if you're interested in joining up and making this astronomy club, get popping, link us up. You can email me at QUEBUTTER, QUEBUTTER@gmail. Please hit me up. You know what I mean? For whatever reasons, that's link. You know, I also do credit repair. I don't focus on the credit repair, but you can go on my page. I got a lot of information on credit repair and things of that nature. And it's all for free. You know, we got to develop the community and invest into our future.
That's facts right there, man. All of my people on this side rocking with you, bro. So you know we got to keep these bills going. You know, a lot of people probably thought we was going to get it in on the debates, but look, man, this was way more powerful. And at the end of the day, like we said, it's a war going on outside. No man is safe from. It's about the children. You got brothers like Q-Bud on the ground. I'm going over to the GoFundMe ASAP, and I'm going to donate. I hope y'all do the same, man. You know what I'm saying? We really got to support the brothers that's out here that's just trying to do anything to help these kids. So I'm definitely, you'll see me over there on a GoFundMe donating. Appreciate you, Q, but I'm gonna let you go and get up out of here, my brother.
Definitely. Peace, beloved.
All right, my brother. Peace and much love. And to the super chat donation, I think I saw one. What was it? One super chat donation or something like that to Joe Shackelford. Magnetism and how the pyramids used to power us up. I got videos coming on that. I also got videos coming, like I said, on the 7 heavens. I'm doing a lot of work. Q-Butter, I see you in the chat room. I'm about to wrench you up. Q-Butter, if you still listening to the stream, you can now post links. So if you want to put that GoFundMe link in the chat room, that'll be dope, brother. Go ahead and post your GoFundMe or anything else that you got to share with the people in the chat room. People is all about camaraderie, and that's what I'm doing. I want to show maturity and growth, and I want to, be able to disagree with people but still make a positive impact. And you just can't do it going against the grain. I think Q-Butter got a very good, real approach to just and a very good sense of maturity, man. He's a very benefit. He's a benefit to the community. So I support that brother, and I hope y'all do the same. And I support all of y'all. Now let me get in the chat room and show some love to y'all. Let me give a shout out to No Breaks Chase. Let me cut the screen share off. Let me give a shout out to No Breaks Chase. And let me give a shout out again to the brother Q Butter. Make sure y'all email the brother if you got any questions for him, all of that. He is approachable. Shout out to the sister, Your Sweet Place, and all of my moderators. I see you out there. Everything's love. And Flat Earth Music, Flat Earth the Card. Kim is all you need to know. That's my baby. Shout out to you, baby. Shout out to my brother Rye Triller. How you doing, man? Yeah, y'all, we gotta support each other. And one thing I promise y'all is good quality streams, good quality interviews, good quality videos and content as we move forward. We only gonna get better. We're gonna leave the ratchet crap behind. And man, this was just a good positive vibe interview today. You know, me and the brother Q Butter got many more to come. All right, so subscribe to all of my channels. I do got another channel called Bro Sanchez Raw, where I'm gonna be doing reviews, advice, and wisdom. That's what Raw stand for. I'm sticking around, and the brother Q Butter is putting the links in the chat. I'm gonna go ahead and open that in another link myself, so we can go over there and support the brother. Go ahead and share that GoFundMe link in the chat before we get out of here too, Q Butter, so I can just click on it and go ahead and make my donation. Guys, let's just try to grow good positive energy, love. And like the brother Q Butter said, his thing is science. That's our thing. I don't give a damn if you're a globe earther or a flat earther. We got to learn them both. I'm a flat earther. All right. And yes, we want to see the end of the globe all day. But do we want to debate it all day? Hell no. Because that's what they want us to do. I'd rather build with my brothers than sit up here and keep debating everybody. Not everybody gonna see the earth is flat. And I don't expect everybody to, because like brothers like Q Butter, he good at what he know with his science. He can teach these kids about the globe, about all the shit in physics and shit that a flat earther just gonna not study. Why? Because we know the earth is flat, and we just gonna be like, fuck they science. But your kids still need to learn that. So it's deeper than the shape of the earth. We know that it's important that the shape of the earth is important, but it's more important not to debate. It's more important to right all of your wrongs and to create good energy. And I learned that, like I said, from a lot of guys that's been doing YouTube before me. You know, I know a lot about sacred geometry, cosmology, a lot of good stuff, man. But conducting yourself and just, you know, having respect is another thing. Let me give a shout out to Backpack Zoe. Said, when I can, bro. Oh yeah, man. Every little bit help. Shout out to Guala Gang Inc. Said, I realized the moon is chasing the sun and not the other way around. The night is literally eating the daylight. That is deep. A lot of people ain't gonna know what you talk about, Guala Gang, but I'm gonna actually go into that a little bit on my new presentation that I'm about to upload. We was going into that. I'm glad you realized that, like, the night is what we call in darkness or nighttime is not the absence of daylight. It's the consumption of daylight, because night is magnetic, daylight is electric, and magnetic energy absorbs electricity, absorbs light. So it's really deep. Even when the nighttime comes, the nighttime absorbs your energy, your light energy or life energy or drive energy that the sun gives you, which is electric. When the moon comes, you start getting sleepy because it's absorbing, it's magnetic, you know, so it's just beautiful. That's something we're going to be going into. Check out all my videos on magnetism. I made a playlist on magnetism. Follow me on Bro Sanchez TV and all of my YouTube channels. Go to brosanchez.com. Support me on Patreon. Support me in PayPal. Hey, super chat if you can. Shout out to Nati Tafa for the super chat donation. And make sure we go and support the brother Q Butter, because he put in a lot of hours with the kids, man. After school, you know. You got a lot of football coaches doing that, in the high school paying them buku money. The brother putting in the same amount of hours with the kids as a high school coach would, you know, hours after school. And he ain't getting paid from no big government entities of the high school. So if we can support brothers like Q Butter, that'll be good. But I know it's hard times, man. So if you could just hit the like button, that's free. And subscribe to the brother's channel. Eventually you will be able to donate to all of us, and we'll be able to continue to do what we're doing with people like y'all. So I appreciate y'all. I'm gonna go ahead and get up out of here, because it's been a long stream, but it's been a powerful one. Peace and much love.